Welcome to Life Transformation Radio. This show is all about life transformations and our journey from where we were to why we are doing what we are doing today. We will discuss the hiccups, the roller coasters, and the blood, sweat, and tears that has been poured out while discovering our purpose. It is all about our transformations. Here is your host, Sean Douglas.
Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to another episode of Life Transformation Radio. I'm your host, Master Resilience Implementer, TEDx speaker, business positioning strategist, and international best-selling author, Sean Douglas. This show is currently heard in over 90 countries. So whether it's your first time joining us or you've been listening to us for some time, I want to thank you to those who are listening from around the world. Life Transformation Radio is all about our transformation. Here, we tell the stories of why we're doing what we're doing, highlighting that transformational moment that changed our lives, and how we use it to then transform others and elevate their lives as well. You can listen to us live right here on the Blog Talk Radio Network, Tuesday through Friday, 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time. You can also join our Facebook group. Go ahead and search on Facebook for Life Transformation Radio Community. Join that Facebook group where we talk about the episodes, talk with the guests, and continue on the conversation even after the show. You can also subscribe on your favorite podcast platform, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, Spreaker, Spotify, TuneIn, Player FM, Radio Public, Himalaya app, the Google Podcasts, Pandora, and we are available on YouTube as well. So you can search on YouTube, go to Life Transformation Radio to our channel, hit that subscribe button, and never miss an episode. On the show, my guests are entrepreneurs, speakers, business owners, coaches, podcasters, authors, amazing human beings that are impacting the world around them. And my guest today does exactly that. If you have any questions for any of the guests that I bring on the show during our live broadcast, go ahead and give us a call at 657-383-1109. Again, the number is 657-383-1109. And with that, please help me welcome to the show my guest for today, Alex Vonderhaar. Alex, welcome to Life Transformation Radio.
Sean, thanks for having me, man. I'm super pumped.
Dude, I was just a guest on your show. Amazing questions, man. It was really good. I thought we had a really cool conversation. So I like that we both have a show to where I can come on yours, and you know, I come on yours, you come on mine. And man, I just think it's super cool.
Yeah, I do too. And what a perfect way to grow an audience too, especially if the audience is shared, right? Because we both have a lot of the same people. We interview a lot of the same guests. But there's still a lot of diversity within each one of those. You've clearly been doing this a whole lot longer than I have. We started our podcast midway through this year, so we're still growing. We're young. We got that underdog status right now, so we're trying to climb and get out there and just impact as many people as we can and help them on their journey.
I love it, man. The best way that I found to grow a podcast audience is to solve a problem, like a really big problem. Most people that I find solve superficial problems. You know, they'll say, we're gonna make sure your marketing's, good to go. Like we're a marketing company, whatever. Well, that's great. I mean, there's a lot of places that you could go to that would help you market a podcast, but why choose one over the other? The one that I would choose would be the one that says, yeah, we're not gonna just market your podcast. Like that's a problem that we as the marketing agency are going to solve. You need more downloads. You need more listeners. We're going to give those to you. That's not really the problem. Again, most people solve superficial problems. That marketing agency needs to solve a way deeper problem. And it's not getting subscribers. It's not getting more listeners. It's what will those listeners do once you have them? Most people go, oh, you need more downloads and more listeners? There you go. Here they are. Here's 1,000 more, which is great. But are they engaged? It's like people who take out Facebook ads to buy followers and buy likes on their Facebook page. Why would you ever do that? First of all, do they really want to be there? If somebody organically subscribes to your show and loves the Hidden Falls experience, they're going to share it with their friends. That's one way that marketing company can say, hey, we're going to create such a compelling marketing ad for you that they're going to listen to it, love it, and then they're going to share it with their friends. So not only does the marketing agency need to be on top, but you as the host needs to be on your game as well, because they can market a whole bunch of people to your show, and if your show sucks, people aren't going to listen to it. Doesn't matter how many people you drive. They're just not going to listen. So it's twofold. The marketing agency that's going to market your show has to say, man, Alex is crushing it in the Hidden Falls media experience. The guy talks about marketing and branding and advertising. Man, this guy knows what he's talking about, and his guests really solve those really big problems. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to market to those people, right? But when you're on the show, man, we need you to subscribe. We need you to share this out. We need you to get people pumped in to what we're doing and get excited for the value that we're going to give you on the show. So that's where you come in. So,
dude, you're
like
jazzing me up, and I'm just sitting here listening to you.
Well, I mean, I'm just saying, man. Like, you know,
I want to go subscribe to this show. I don't know whose show it is, but man, I'm ready to go hit that button.
Right, like, but that's what you need to do, man. You need to be energetic and give a reason. What I can listen to. Think about it. The Joe Polish, probably the number one, hands down, number one marketer on the planet. Number one, Joe Polish. He does a show with Dean Jackson called I Love Marketing. I love Joe Polish. He's absolutely incredible. Number two marketer on the planet would be Christopher Lochhead. He used to have a show called Legends and Losers, rebranded it to Follow Your Different, and he also has a second show called Lochhead on Marketing. You ever want to know anything about marketing? Listen to those two shows. I wouldn't even bother listening to anybody else's show about marketing because they are the number one and number two marketer on the planet. I just want to go to the top. I want to know what they're talking about. That said, if I go to a show and I'm like, this sucks, like, why would I listen to this? I don't care whose show it is. Like it doesn't matter to me. I mean, if Jeff Bezos had a podcast and talked about, I don't know, getting fit, and I don't care about exercise, or I'm like, yeah, I'm already, I got my podcast, Jeff Bezos didn't have one about business. Jeff Bezos didn't have one about how he built Amazon, about the future of Amazon, about the power of voice. Who the hell's going to listen to that? They listen to Jeff Bezos because he built the number one billion-dollar business in the world, right?
100%.
So give them a reason to listen to your show.
100%. I love it.
There you go, man. So the title of this episode is Neuro-Marketing is Here with podcaster Alex Vonderhaar. Alex is a business owner, podcast host, guitarist, and lead neuro-marketer for his digital marketing agency, Hidden Falls Media. Alex has helped hundreds of businesses around the world leverage neuroscience and psychology principles to accelerate their growth. Go check out Alex and his team on his podcast, The Hidden Falls Media Experience, where they talk all things marketing, branding, advertising, neuromarketing, and have some of the world's best experts talk shop. You go to his website at hiddenfallsmedia.com. The podcast link is right there in the show notes for Apple Podcasts, and his Instagram is right there. Go check him out on Instagram. Follow what he's doing. Subscribe to his show. It's not enough just to listen to it and then have to go back and find another episode. Just on your favorite podcast platform, just subscribe to the Hidden Falls Media Experience, and I promise you, you're going to learn some amazing topics. And while you're there, search for Life Transformation Radio and subscribe to our show as well. Alex, after reading that, I got to know, man, your why. What is your why, man? Why do you do what you do?
Yeah, I never thought I'd end up being where I'm at with this. I went to school for psychology and neuroscience, so I was fully intent in being inside of a pharmaceutical lab or inside of a clinical practice helping people overcome mental illness or drug addiction. And I went through what I call the traditional good boy route through college, right? You get the piece of paper, you get it done, and you move through, and they say the promised land's on the other side. And after I got through, I figured out that the promised land was nowhere to be seen. So I ended up taking a job at a local business, getting paid minimum wage, and I helped build them up through digital marketing to a multi-million-dollar business within just under 2 years. And I got through this process. I learned a ton about digital marketing, and I started to notice how much of digital marketing overlaps with neuroscience and psychology. We're talking habits, behaviors, creating products and brands that are sticky and that you identify with as a person at a really deep level, and what creates those unshakable brands that they could literally do no wrong and you would be just super attached and on board with them. And I got super deep into that world. I mean, books galore, course galore, anything and everything you can imagine to just consume the information around it. I was in it. And what I started to realize as I opened up my own agency and went out into the world wasn't just to make money for myself. It was realizing how many other digital marketers out there are just ripping people off because all they've learned how to do is run a Facebook ad. And they're charging tens of thousands of dollars a month. They're making their clients spend tens of thousands of dollars a month or even hundreds of thousands and up a year on ad spend. And it's not proven effective because they don't understand the key psychological drivers of what that audience moves for. And truly understanding how to push and pull those levers for that audience at different times. It's a moving equation, but it's one that's all human-centric. And once I started to really get a good pulse of this and realize how much just gross gunk was in my market and in my industry, my why instantly became we have to eradicate all the nonsense that comes along with this marketing agency, and what the advertising and marketing world used to be of the Mad Men era no longer is. It's opened up. It started to breathe. We're seeing so much interesting and creative research come out around the principles inside of neuromarketing and how to use psychology within business. And it's absolutely astounding. And when I started to really put these pieces together, my why really fell into place. It's to serve business owners through honesty and accuracy and actually provide them value and use these platforms to their advantage and not just let them get taken advantage of by some scumbag that's going to charge them below 5 figures a month to get them no results.
Love it, man. Absolutely freaking love it. You bring up a good point. A lot of the clients that I work with, if we want to launch like a podcast or a book or a speaker career, or the people that I talk to that really want to have a coach but are kind of like on the fence, I don't know, is people who've been burned by other people. Most of the people that I work with have been burned. And I noticed this trend. I'd worked with somebody and they're like, oh, I had a coach, it wasn't even that good. Like, I got more in 45 minutes than I did in 45 days working with them. I'm like, well, I'm excited for our other sessions then. That's great. And I've done something differently. I've done something a little bit different. So as I'm talking to them, like, well, what happened? And I get their story. And then another one, and another one, and another one, and another one. And it just wasn't really a good atmosphere. It wasn't a lot of fun for them. They didn't really get a lot out of it. They questioned, why do I need a coach? Not even sure I need to, until they met me. And what I've done differently is because of my military background, my experience as well going through hard times, they have a soldier. There's a story about a soldier just walking along the road contemplating his life, and he falls into a hole. Falls into a hole and starts screaming for help, and along comes a senior leader. The senior leader yells down at him, and he's like, hey, man, you got this. Come on, man, you got this. Dig deep. He's like, I need help getting out. He's like, you got this, man. Dig deep. So he digs deep. The hole. He digs the hole deeper. Senior leader walks away. A little while later, he's still screaming for help, and a psychologist and a therapist come by. They sit down. They talk to him for an hour, trying to figure out how he got in the hole. And then they look at each other and go, oh, that's it. They look at their watch. That's our hour. We'll see you next week. And they left. Another soldier's walking by. Here's the guy, screams for help, looks down, jumps into the hole. The first soldier's like, what the hell are you doing, man? Now there's two of us in this hole. Like, what the hell? He's like, no, it's fine. I was already in this hole. It is a little deeper now, but I've already been here. And then he helped them get out. I've taken that approach with my business. Most people, when they coach, they meet for an hour every week or 2 hours every week and say, I'll see you next week. When they get discouraged because it's not happening for them, they tell them to dig deep. Oh, man, you got this. Don't give up. No, it's fine. No, I really need a refund, and it's not working out for me, and I don't know. And they go, no, you got this. Don't give up. Dig deep, man. You got this. Dig deep. That's not what they want to hear. So what I've taken in my business, marketing podcasts and building podcasts and speaking and coaching and everything else that I do, is I take that soldier approach. I jump into the hole with them. I build a relationship with them. They're not a client. They're somebody that I'm trying to help. And if I can't help them, then they have no right to give me money. So I look at the point where, what are we doing with these people? Why are they getting burned? Why do they feel like they've getting taken advantage of? Why do they feel like nothing's working for them? Because you didn't ask. Hey, I got this one client. We're about to launch a book November 18th. She's going to come on my show and talk about it. And I really want her to talk about the process. And I said, here's what you need to do. Every single day, you need to post something about the book. And here's what I want you to post. And I literally wrote out a month's worth of content, Monday through Friday, twice a day for her, because I have a template. Everything's a template. I live by templates and checklists. And what I did was I wrote out for her copy and paste, and then fill in your own words. Doesn't matter what your words are. Just fill it in. Here's what I would talk about. And then I check up with her every couple of days, and I'm in those posts, and I'm liking those posts. And I mean, she's like, dude, oh my gosh, like so many people want this book now. Like, oh my gosh. I'm like, yeah, because you're creating a buzz. You're being consistent. You're marketing it. People love it. They love your content. So all I did was give you a foundation. I'm not saying, hey, man, here's what you need to do. Go post on social. We'll see you next week. Like, that's ridiculous, but that's what people do. And then it doesn't work for them. They're like, oh, I don't know why it didn't work. Like, oh, it must have been you. Wasn't me. Must have been you. Like, I gave her every single thing. I was like, step by step, here's what you need to do. Do this now. You know what I'm saying?
Oh, I absolutely do. I think you hit on a really, really important point, which is, and I don't know if you, I don't think you directly said it, but it was definitely in the subtext. And it's something you pick up on when talking with you, Sean. And I noticed it when we did our podcast earlier this week, is I can tell that you're super secure with your relationship with yourself. I can tell by the way that I can tell by the work ethic. I can tell by the consciousness that you have that you bring into a situation. Your charisma is through the roof on some of these things. And there's an element of contentment, but not complacency, where you're not okay with just sitting around doing nothing, but you're okay with the idea of being content with the strategy that you have, because you understand that over time, the compounding effect of that is going to grow. All of those are learned skills, and I think it's incredible, that ability that you have to storytell through that perspective, but I think it all starts with truly understanding the relationship with yourself. And I mean, you know this from a ton of experience of working with other businesses and business owners, that if you make a friend, you made a sale. And going back to the relationship, what problem are you solving for them? I'm not coming into this when our very first meeting we have with any of our clients starts off the same way. Where are you at? Where are you trying to go? And beyond that, what failed you in the past, and what do you attribute that to? And it's a powerful question, because we'll get the answers that you think you would normally get. Well, the other ad agency didn't do this for me. I didn't do this. This thing never happened. It fell through. Communication fell flat. And one of the common themes is exactly what you pulled up is, where's the expectation? Where's the relationship that's being developed in the process? And understand that this is something that takes time. We're we're not here to change the minds of people. We're here to build the relationship with people that are already ready to connect with you. And there's a vast bigger audience in that segment than there is of people who we need to try to change their mind.
You know, I spend no time on people that say no. I've actually got up and walked out of meetings, like 15 minutes in. Like, I was trying to get booked to speak. I had this conversation with somebody the other day. I was in a meeting trying to get booked to speak. They booked a meeting with me, and I had to drive almost an hour and a half or some odd to this meeting. So I come in, I'm like, hey, how's it going? And the guy's like, well, I don't know, like, do you have any video? I'm like, yeah, man, I got tons of video. Yeah, what do you want to see? Yeah, just pull it up. And he had a computer like on the wall, like a TV. He had a keyboard right there. I said, yeah, man, pull it up. Pull up my channel. Everybody else is like, this is really good. But he was just not having it. Something about it turned him off. And I was watching his mannerism, and I was like, well, who makes the decision? Because he's like, oh, I don't know. And man, I'm not sure that's what we're looking for. And everybody else was like, I think it's good. But there was a couple of people that weren't talking at all. And they were like, I could see they're nodding their head. And I love that because they're like, yeah. And then they look at this one person to see if he's nodding his head. And then they stopped. And then somebody was laughing. Somebody was smiling because of a joke I said on one of my videos. They turned to look at the guy. He wasn't laughing. They weren't laughing no more. They stopped smirking. A couple of people did this. So they got done, and I was like, well, let me ask you a question. Who's the decision maker here? It seems like it's you are. He's like, yeah. And I was like, yeah, because these two guys over here enjoyed my video, but they stopped laughing and smiling when you weren't. This person right next to me liked what they were hearing, was nodding, looked for your approval, got nothing. She stopped. Seems like you're the decision maker, and they take after you. So I'm just not in the business of trying to work to change someone's mind. It seems like you already know what you want, and it's not me. He's like, well, I don't know. We haven't really gotten a speaker before. Like we just really have it. I'm like, well, either you do or you don't, but I'm not in the business of changing your mind. I would love to come speak at your event. You saw what I could do. And I pointed to those guys. I was like, did you like that? He's like, I thought it was great. I'm like, see? Your people thought it was great. You did not, but you're the ultimate decision maker. So I have to sit here and I have to talk to you and beg and plead and change your mind and tell you how awesome I am. Or you sound like you already have something in your mind that you'd rather be doing. And he's like, well, it's a big decision. I'm like, no, that's cool. That's cool. You saw what I could do. Your people loved it. And so I'm going to leave it to that. I appreciate your time. I appreciate it. I stood up. I appreciate your time. I appreciate the meeting. And if you want me to come speak, I definitely will. If not, then, I wish you all the best. And everybody was like, what the hell? I just got up and walked out. And then the lady was like, oh, my God, nobody's ever walked out of a meeting with him before. I'm like, oh, well, I don't work for him yet. He hasn't signed a contract. I don't work for him.
I love it.
So 5 minutes later, I'm in the car. 5 minutes later, I pull onto the road. 5 minutes later, she goes, hey, man, they're not going to hire you. I'm like, yeah, I didn't think they were. I'm not going to spend my time in a meeting, changing someone's mind that really doesn't want to do business with me anyways, She goes, yeah, he told us that he'd rather just do it himself. I'm like, I figured that's what it was because everybody loved what I was doing. He did not. He already had something in his mind. He told me he did. He's like, oh, I don't know, man. I mean, I think we could do some other things. And he ended up doing the speaking himself, the leader. He didn't want anybody else to do it. He wanted to do it. My God, it's an egotistical leader right there. He didn't care about what his people wanted. It was all about what he wanted. And that's why that business probably isn't going to go very far. I haven't even checked in the business. I spend zero time. I'm not going to go like, I wonder if that business is still. No, give a shit. I spend zero time on people who say no to me. Bye. Next. No means next opportunity.
And I think to kind of put a pretty bow on that as to what that really means from my perspective is that you're willing to commit to the relationship, right? You're willing to go and be that soldier in the pit with them. And I think that's the true difference between business owners that thrive and succeed and cultivate truly amazing relationships with their clients versus ones that are purely transactional. And I mean, there's businesses out there that thrive on just the transactional business and the high turnover and high volume. They love it. I look at it as, hey, man, if that's the battle you want to fight, go fight it. I'm after the client. I have to win over every single day to build the relationship with, because they understand that it's very much a give and take. There's going to be times where I push you, and there's going to be times where you push me back. It's not out of disrespect. It's not out of anything besides we're trying to push each other to a higher level than those around us, because we understand that there's so much competition and so much noise. We have to use every tool in our toolbox to possibly beat through that. And what's funny is that it's the most simple things, like building a relationship, making a friend, committing to that friend of, hey, we're going to win together. And it seems so silly and so simple, but it's so fundamental in everything.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, man. And if that person wants to go out and headhunt customers and not build relationships, then they're only going to do business about maybe 1 million times. Eventually, they'll run out of customers.
So true.
I mean, if you think about it, right? I mean, how many people live in the United States? I mean, I don't know, 100 million? So they could do business 100 million times.
300 million.
Something like that. But let's just say that they blow through, a few million customers, and they serve those customers, right? It doesn't matter what it is. Let's say it's a clothing line, Ford, GM, like whatever it is. They blow through those customers. Let's say Ford never built a relationship with any of their customers. They bought a truck from them, but didn't build a relationship, didn't do anything after that. They made the sale. At about 1 million customers, they're going to run out of customers. Because you're never going to get the Chevy guys. You're never going to get the GM guys. Those are hardcore guys. So what happens? The business folds. You should build a relationship because you don't have returning customers. The LTV as a customer is way more lucrative. First-time buyer. Just is. Look at restaurants.
100%.
Restaurants they are the living example. You go to a restaurant and they don't build a rapport with you and they have really crappy service, you're not coming back. If you did not have an enjoyable experience, they're not coming back. So how many customers? If you have a restaurant in New York or Chicago or Detroit or LA or Raleigh or somewhere in the United States, you have a restaurant and your restaurant serves a city of 100,000 people, 500,000 people, 30,000 people where I live. You blow through those customers, you're done. You've built no rapport with them, and you have no incentive to come back to your restaurant. You're done. It's the same way. Every business is the same way.
So true. So true.
I think people aren't looking at the bigger picture, man. And that kind of goes into neuromarketing a little bit. Like, neurologically, why do they come back? That's something we could literally spend the next hour talking about this.
And I love it. We could talk about setting triggers. We could talk about setting hooks inside of businesses. It's what I live and breathe for. It truly isn't that complicated, which is the scary part of it. With all the businesses that we've worked with and talked to, there's really only a few things that we focus on. We focus on how do we formulate habits? How do we create triggers? What action do we want to have happen after the trigger? What type of reward system do we bake into the process of the business? What are we asking them to invest back for the reward? And how do we create this habit-forming loop over and over and over again? So that way we're creating an experience, we're creating a brand. The second you went to Disney World as a kid, you can instantly remember that because they hooked you on so many small experiences that they put you through. Or your favorite mechanic, like you said, your favorite restaurant, right? Anything that's commoditized out there, which almost everything is now thanks to the internet, you have to stand out in a different way. You have to create the experience that's just totally different than what anybody else is doing. And in order to do that, they have to know, like, and trust you. And that all starts back with the relationship, just like what you were saying. Can we keep the customer as long as possible, and can we keep them happy? And what we see a lot with marketing is people use fear-based marketing, and it's just not the best way. Our brains respond to fear. Yes, absolutely. It's a very limbic-based system within the brain. It's old brain. right? Because we understand that when we talk about story, that it kind of bypasses a lot of those judgment filters, and we can actually get to the root and the theory of what's going on, because it's how we used to survive. It's how knowledge used to get passed down to us. It doesn't mean that that story has to be negative. We look at the hero's journey, one of the most common themes across all storytelling throughout all of our literature, all of our movies, and we almost always see the victory, and we're almost disappointed or upset with the movie or the book if it comes out the other side and it's not hitting those key triggers. It's the same psychological hooks within your brand and within your business. We're setting the same things up so that way when the bowling ball comes rolling down the lane, we hit all the pins we need to hit.
Yeah, man. Are you an Apple or Windows guy?
So I've had a mix of everything in my life. Right now, I'm currently using an iPhone. I have a MacBook, but I had custom built a PC about 3 years ago to handle video editing.
So I assume that you bought the Apple phone because you love their logo and their branding.
No. I love it for the ability that I can connect with everybody else fairly seamlessly, and it's not an issue.
You've been an Apple user for a long time then, right?
Yeah, on and off. I'll tell you one of the things that fully converted me back was what they're doing with data and privacy rights. I don't know if you're familiar with that. Google phones typically and Android phones typically aren't the most secure, and they store data and they use data, especially using platforms like Google Maps. That's why Google Maps is so much further superior to Apple Maps, because they collect, store, and aggregate that data to reuse for better engagement with the app and have better responses out of people. But they really aren't looking after your best interest or your best data rights in mind with a lot of that, where Apple has come out with a very proactive stance across a lot of these data platforms and a lot of looking at these big data issues and saying, how can we take a proactive step to start to solve some of these things? And as soon as we were starting to see a lot of that shift within the way they decrypt travel, within the way they decrypt your messages, and start to really make sure that everything that they're doing is truly here to serve you. From that perspective, I really like Apple, but for the longest time, I had a hard time getting on board with Apple and a lot of other tech companies just because of the way that they pay their wages and the way that they continually move business out of the United States and into other countries.
Mm-hmm. So what you're telling me is that you didn't buy Apple because of the logo?
No.
All right, got it. So do you even know what the bite out of the apple means?
Enlighten me.
Yeah, neither do I. But millions of people freaking buy the Apple phone.
Yep.
Like, it's not about the freaking colors, man. It's not about the logo. It's the freaking rapport that they have with their customers and the returning customers. That's why people will stand in line for hours for the iPhone 12, even though the battery sucks shit, the phone sucks. Their sales dropped because the phone sucks so bad. But guess what? People stood in line for hours to get it because it's an Apple phone. Because they do business with Apple. Because that's what they do. Once you got the brand loyalty, man, the customers will keep returning all the time. Because what you do for them, not what you say or what you show, like on your logo, whatever. But anyway, yeah, I look at all this stuff, man. So I look at people that buy things, like for a living. People who shop around. Like, what are you shopping for? Like, oh, I want to try this new car that's here. Or I'm going to look at all these other different houses. Like, what are you looking for? You walk into a house, you just know it's not the house for you. Well, how do you know when you walk into the house that is for you? Like, what do you look? Everybody's looking for something. The best places that are going to do a lot of business are the places that are giving the people what they want. So they come to you.
100%.
Because you're fulfilling their need. So, yeah. Yeah, man. I want to get into neuro-marketing, man. What is neuro? And first, before I go into that, I just want to say that it's come a time where you could put anything in front of marketing and create a new category. Influencer marketing, email marketing, social media marketing, chatbot marketing, neuro-marketing. podcast marketing, interview marketing, same thing, right? Podcast marketing, interview marketing. Interview marketing, that's what we're doing right now. I have a show, you have a show, cross-pollinating audiences. We're literally interview marketing right now. But you can throw anything in front of marketing and create something. So yeah, man, talk about neuromarketing and what that is.
Totally. So I want to start by saying I'm not the one that invented neuromarketing by any stretch of it. It's been around. It's been around for a while since we started having fMRI machines. Really, functional magnetic resonance imaging. So people get put into those big cylindrical tubes that you see inside of hospitals that are able to check out blood flow and activity in the brain. And what we've been able to do with technology is put people inside of those and start looking at consumer behavior with certain products. Now, of course, it started out with big brands like Coca-Cola, Doritos, and we started moving through Exxon, and we started looking at a bunch of different brands. And when we put people inside these scanners, we were looking at their brain and seeing which part of their brains lit up with first things that you would think of, like different colors. How do different colors illuminate different thought patterns within the brain? Well, then how do we look at different sensory images? How does this paper feel versus another paper? Which paper would you be more likely to accept somebody's resume on, or more likely to accept and buy from a company with a brochure or a sales letter that's printed out? Which type of paper feels better and why? And what are those key brain signaling activities that are happening that are coming back and really moving through? And we see this, and this science gets pushed out in a bunch of different ways. That was the very fundamental base of where it started. And in the last 50 years, we've come so far with it to truly understanding, what our brain is going through when we're making conscious decisions when we're shopping. There's a reason that retail stores, especially grocery stores, for eye level across all of your shopping experience, and that's mostly the quote-unquote name brands that are eye level as you're shopping. We see this backed up with infrared eyeglasses that when customers wear inside of stores, that'll track their eye movement as they're moving through a brick and mortar or they're moving through your grocery store, to be able to say, okay, this is where they're looking on average when they come in. Okay, wouldn't it make sense to put a sign here? Wouldn't it make sense to put one of the most common brands here? Of course it would, if that's where everybody's looking. So looking at that from an online perspective, we do the same studies. We look at, okay, well, when people look at a website, what are the patterns they typically look at? Do they look in a certain formation? What type of colors resonate better on websites versus print packaging? And how do we start to look at those differences? How many call to action buttons? How important is copywriting compared to the images that are actually being shown on a website? And starting to put all these pieces together to start to formulate a comprehensive and cohesive strategy. So you're not just throwing good money after bad repeatedly. It doesn't work, especially for small business owners. You can't just waste money here, waste money there, because every dollar counts and every dollar matters. So starting from a place of understanding how human behavior is affected using these online platforms like a cell phone or a tablet or your desktop computer, or even on a television screen, because it is still electronic and digital, how do we interact with these products and how do we get our brand to best be illuminated through good storytelling, good copy, good images, through that, all the good fundamental principles of marketing, but how do we look at that from how does our brain hardwired to receive these images, to receive this messaging, so that way we are motivated and inspired to take action and to become loyal customers. And that's really at the heart of neuromarketing. And that's what is so fascinating to me, is everything that goes into that, right? It's almost like baking a really good cake. It's like there's so many different elements that go into it. By the time you ice it up, put the decoration on, and ship it out the door, you want everybody in the world to enjoy that cake, because there's been so much that goes into it that you know it's going to taste good because it's a formula that's worked and that's tried and true. Same thing with our brain. We know that there's certain patterns in the brain that illuminate when we hit certain smells, when we see certain colors, when we engage with people in a certain way. But I'll tell you the really, really ironic and funny part of this, Sean, is that it all comes back to the relationship. Even though we spend millions and millions, if not billions a year just on getting people to know our name, it's even more important and more effective for them to get to understand our relationship with them.
Super cool, man. I love that a lot. And you
Thanks.
have covered such like an amazing variety and array of value for people and simultaneously highlighting what are going through businesses and marketers' minds and not through the consumer's mind. The consumer's like, man, I really wish I had one more button. Man, if I had this one call to action button, I probably would have taken. No, I'm not saying that, but people think they are. Oh, I got to get this call. I got to throw a net. I got to get this one call to action button. Oh my God, it's got to be. I mean, there's a great TEDx talk by Simon Sinek. Start with Why. His TEDx talk. Have you watched that one?
Absolutely.
Love that one. And he talks about marketing and branding, but he talked about like what leaders do and how they talk. And I use this in my talk sometimes. You know, I talk about Abraham Lincoln be remembered for the Gettysburg Address. That's his I mean, it's not all his legacy, but I mean, everybody attributes that to, you know, the Gettysburg Address. If you ask somebody, like, was that the only address given that day? Like, I think so. But they don't remember the Secretary of State at the time, Edward Everett, who talked for 2 hours. It wasn't even Abraham Lincoln's event. Abraham Lincoln was invited to that event to give a couple words. But it was the Secretary of State and some other people that were hosting a rally. They were hosting an event. And he got up there. He spoke for a little under 2 minutes. It was right around 2 minutes, and delivered one of the greatest addresses that we today consider one of the greatest speeches. It was around 2 minutes. But yet, the Secretary of State spoke for over 2 hours, and nobody even remembers.
Mm-hmm.
It's fascinating.
It's the power of emotion.
Yep. And the power of people giving a crap about what you're talking about.
Mm.
He delivered something that people cared about and remembered. Now, there's a lot of things that the Roosevelts have done. A lot. Throughout history. A lot. One of the best speeches ever given was the Man in the Arena speech. Have you heard that Man in the Arena speech?
I've not.
Everybody who has not heard of this, go look up the Man in the Arena speech. It is incredible. One of the greatest speeches by our Roosevelt. And then, I mean, we're so consumed with, well, how do I get this person to do this? And how do I make moves? And how do I make them sign on? And how do I get money? And how do I do that? Like, I don't know. Why don't you ask the freaking consumer? Why don't you ask them what makes you listen to a podcast? What makes you do this, and do this? And make sure you're asking your target market, because what you might do may not appeal to the person who you think you want. But I think you said so much difference. Oh my God, like what colors, the copyright, the buttons, the this. It's like they don't need that. They need you to solve a freaking problem. They need to make sure that you have their best interest at heart. Literally. That's what we're talking about. So, man, I love that you went into that, and I love everything you're doing, man. So the show is about transformation, and I kind of way bypassed that, but very quickly, man, what would you say is a transformational moment in your life that put you on the path to what you're doing today?
Yeah, I mean, definitely my education and watching that, you know, I love the fact that I'm educated in what I'm educated in. I've always been fascinated by psychology and the neuroscience that goes on behind the scenes of the psychology. But the biggest transformational moment for me was when I had the conversation with my mom and my girlfriend of like, can we truly afford to open a business and develop an agency that, specifically in my area of the United States, I mean, the world's not ready for something like this type of idea. It's out there, but it's so science-based and it's so technical that it's really difficult for people to kind of wrap their arms around what you're doing, and it feels a little bit slippery. And the biggest transformational moment is, yeah, it's going to be a little bit slippery and people aren't going to understand you right away, but that gives you so much time to lay the groundwork and lay the foundation so that way by the time you do the education, by the time you invest into your community, by the time that you start to develop these relationships, the world will start to be ready for what you have to offer. And by that point in time, here we are 3.5 years later, and we're starting to see those seeds that we planted that long ago finally starting to just barely peek out of the ground, right? And I think that was the biggest transformational moment for us, was understanding, yes, it's a risk. Yes, there is a lot of downside, but there's even more upside to it that we can't even imagine, but we can feel and we know it's out there out of faith and out of just understanding that success will come because of the right intent behind it and the work ethic that we knew we could put into it.
Love it, man. I love what you're doing. I think it's very, very, very cool, man. If somebody wanted to work with you and they wanted to get more information, where do we send them?
Totally. So for all of our agency clients, we recommend that you go to hiddenfallsmedia.com. If you're interested, we do have a holiday survival guide. It's $27. We walk through step by step how we're going to handle the holiday season for the rest of this year. It's literally a snag. It's a small little mini course. It's like an hour long, and you get a PDF download with a checklist of you have to do X, Y, Z, A, B, C, 1, 2, 3 in that order, and you're going to get good results from it. And you'll love this, Sean, because it's all based in the foundation of really good communication. And we show you how to make this happen with zero ad spend.
Love it. Dude, I freaking love it already.
I'll make sure you get a copy of it. I'll send it over to you.
I just think it's funny, surviving the holidays. Man, because people are like, oh, crap, here we go. I got to go to my aunt's house or my, oh, your mom's, this is the biggest argument ever. Married couples are like, freaking hell, your mom's coming. Oh, God. Oh, God, honey, it'll be fine. She's fine. My mom is fine. And it's the biggest topic of conversation. Oh, man, your uncle's so crazy. Why does your uncle have to go? He's always so drunk at the table. Oh, God. There's always that one crazy relative that only comes around during the holidays. You're like, oh, hell, here we go. Here we go. Dude's coming from out of town, That dude always lives out of town, too. The crazy uncle doesn't live in town. He lives out of town,
I live for those moments and for those people because I'm like, I get a small dose of it just right in front of me. And it feeds the story, right? It's like, how boring and plain would it be if everybody sat at the table and thought and said the same thing? You got to have that spice in there. It's like salt, though. Too much of it will ruin a dish.
Oh, for I love it. Dude, I love that. Dude, thanks for coming on the show. Absolutely phenomenal, man. I feel like I could talk to you forever. My TEDx talk from TEDx Wilmington, I use some neuroscience in there. My resilience training that I delivered is based on fact-based positive psychology research studies. And I had cited a couple research studies at my TEDx talk, man. I'll send you a link to the TEDx talk.
For sure. I would love to check that out.
Yeah, man. So, dude, again, man, love what you're doing. I totally geek out on that stuff, man. So before we go, I want to leave them with a message. If you had to deliver something right now, what do you want the listeners to know and understand?
Yeah, this is going to be really simple and really short and sweet because it's how I end every podcast. It's how I love to end all of my meetings. And it's as much of a message as it is a call to action, which is to go make somebody else smile today.
Dude, you rock. All right, man.
Thank you.
Again, really appreciate you coming on the show, man. Thanks for your time.
Sean, thanks a lot. I really appreciate it. And thank you to your audience for listening. I really appreciate them too.
Life Transformation Radio listeners, an amazing guest impacting the world around him. If anything has resonated with you in our conversation with Alex Vonderhaar from Hidden Falls Media, go check out his website, hiddenfallsmedia.com. Go subscribe to his podcast on your favorite podcast platform. Look for Life Transformation Radio and subscribe to that show as well. If you want to donate to Life Transformation Radio so that we can keep on putting out content every single day, every single week, every single month, there is a link right there in the show notes. You can click on that and donate to the show. As I close, I always say, live your brand. Find opportunities every day to live out the core values that you hold deep in your heart. And I call this living your brand. So until next episode, live a great life.